all go home where it's nice. I want to first of all thank everybody for coming out. We're going to have some more folks come in, but I know that we've got important work to do. We've got phone calls to make. We've got doors to knock on. We've got voters to talk to. So we want to go ahead and get this started. I want to first of all thank everybody for being here. And I want to tell you, this indeed is the most important election of our lifetime. Yes. It's really, really true this time. You know, as I was coming in, I met a bunch of folks that told me, you know, I'm originally from Lake Charles, went to Louisiana Tech, met another family that said, met another woman that said, look, I got roots in Louisiana. Well, tonight there's a pretty important football game going on back home in Baton Rouge. Those two Tigers are getting ready to beat the Alabama Tide. Yeah. I couldn't be there instead, but instead I want to be here because this is even more important than that football game. Now, I'm thrilled to be joined by Senator Thume, and several others are coming. And let me tell you, you're going to hear from them. And you're going to hear how this president has made and broken promises to the people of New Hampshire and the people of America. Promises he was to turn that economy around in 3 years. It would be a one-term proposition. Hadn't done it yet. Promised us he was going to cut our health care costs, preserve Medicare. Hadn't done that either. Promised us he was going to cut that deficit in half. Hadn't done that either. List of broken promises. Promised he was going to change the tone in Washington, D.C. Promised he was going to bring the parties together. Well, they unanimously voted to reject his budget, but I don't think that's what he meant by bringing the parties together. Promised us he was going to address the entitlement programs. He hadn't done that either. He can't run on his record. He can't ask you were you better off than you were 4 years ago. It's no wonder he has adopted the most vacuous, meaningless campaign slogan I have seen in my lifetime. Think about it. What's his slogan? Forward. Forward to what? I mean, the reality is he hasn't answered that question for the American people. He had 3 opportunities to debate Governor Mitt Romney on the national stage. He didn't spend 1 minute talking about his plans for the next 4 years, because all he's offering is more of the failed policies that's gotten us $16 trillion of debt, 23 million underemployed, unemployed Americans. So forward to what, I ask? Forward to more government debt? Forward to more entitlement programs we can't afford? Forward to more European-style socialism? Forward to more apologies for America here and abroad? Forward to higher energy prices and less energy production here at home? Forward to higher health care premiums? Forward to more cuts into Medicare? Absolutely not. But you do have to give the president this much credit. He has come up with a brilliant marketing strategy. Because you see, he might say forward, he might say up, he might say down, he might say left, he might say right. He wants to distract us, does not want us focusing on reality, does not want us to focus on where we are today. And I give the president this much credit. He is much better at getting his job than he has been at actually doing his job. We cannot afford another 4 more years of this president's policies. But that's what you get. That's what you get when you have 4 years of on-the-job training in the White House. Think about this. We elected a president who's never run a business, never run a state, never run a lemonade stand before we elected him president of the United States. Now, he's great at reading those teleprompters. He loses those teleprompters. Listen what happens. He tells us, you didn't build that business. He tells us, private sector is doing fine. The public sector is the one that's in trouble. He loses that teleprompter. He tells us we are lazy. He says American people are soft. We're losing our ambition. I don't know about you. That doesn't describe the American people I know and I meet every day. We are blessed to live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Yes. And if this president doesn't understand that about the American people, it is time for him to start packing his boxes so he can move out of the White House. I'll close with this before I ask our John Keller, our Senator John Thume, to come up here. Let me close with this. We've got Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. We've got a proven team. Mitt Romney's done a great job in the private sector, done a great job running his state, done a great job running the Olympics. It's kind of proven track record. He'll bring about the real change we need. But this election is not about you and me. Let's be honest. This election is about our children and grandchildren. Yep. Every generation of Americans has left more opportunities for our children than we've inherited from our parents. That's the American dream. Let's not become the first generation that mortgages our children's future. That's what's at stake in this election. So I want to thank y'all for coming out. New Hampshire selects president. New Hampshire got this election started. New Hampshire 3 more days until we put our country back on the path towards prosperity, pay down this deficit, and preserve the American dream for our children and grandchildren. With that, it is my honor to introduce to you not only a great senator from the great state of South Dakota, but the first senator, in decades to defeat a sitting majority leader. Please give a great New Hampshire welcome to Senator John Thume.
For our party, and we're all glad to be here in New Hampshire. The reason we're here in New Hampshire is because your 4 votes could decide who the next president of the United States is. Your 4 electoral votes, and that's why it's so important that we do everything we can between now and Tuesday to make sure that Mitt Romney is the next president of the United States. And Governor Jindal did a really good job of sort of laying out the reasons why. But I always, if you know anybody out there that's undecided the next few days that you're talking to, ask them this question: what would a second Obama term look like? That ought to put everybody kind of exactly. I mean, if you think about what we've gotten out of the first term, we've got higher taxes, fewer jobs, lower take-home pay. America's place in the world is a lot less respected than it was before he took office. We've got healthcare costs that are exploding. Fuel costs have doubled since he became president. The number of people on food stamps has gone up by 47%, and the debt that we're passing on to our children and grandchildren has gone up by over 50%. It's now over $16 trillion, which is $52,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. That is the Obama record. That is the Obama economy, and that's what they're running from. We can't take 4 more years of what we had in the past 4 years. After 4 years, we're hopeless and changeless. I think that's the. That's true. So we have a big job ahead of us, guys. And if you think about what's at stake in this election, it really is the future that our children and grandchildren are going to live with. We are handing to them a lower standard of living, a lower quality of life than what we've experienced, and we'll be the first generation in American history to do that, unless we change the direction of this country. And we have somebody in Mitt Romney that can do that, who brings the background, the experience, the skill set, and the know-how to get Americans back to work, to get our economy growing again, to restore America's greatness. And we need to do everything that we possibly can between now and Tuesday to make sure that he's successful. Now, I get the privilege every single day of serving with your great Senator, Kelly Ayotte. Kelly, by the way, you already all know this, but I get to see it every day, how absolutely she is, her incredible work ethic. She is so smart, so talented, and becomes such a leader in such a short amount of time. In the time I've been in politics, and I've been in Congress now 3 terms in the House, and got the privilege to serve with Bobby and Jim Talent and Marsha Blackburn over there, but I have never seen anybody in my time in politics who has become such a star, such a leader in such a short amount of time. So you're very, very blessed to have her represent you. And I just want you to know that both of us are here. She's here obviously because it's her home state. She wants to see it delivered for Mitt Romney. But we all know how desperately and how hungry the country is for leadership. We cannot solve the big problems and the challenges that we face as a nation unless we get a president who's willing to lead. And we sit there every single day in the United States Senate with a Democrat majority, the president in the White House who's unwilling to lead. And we spin our wheels and continue to get more and more frustrated by the day at just the lack of progress that we make toward really addressing the nation's challenges. And so we need leadership. The nation's hungry for leadership, and we have a chance to deliver it on Tuesday, and it could very well be up to the state of New Hampshire about who the next president of the United States is. Now, I will tell you one final point in closing, because I know that you're all tired, you're fatigued, it's been a long campaign season. You all get all the campaign commercials up here. We don't get them in South Dakota, by the way. We're not a battleground state. We are going to vote for Romney, Mitt Romney on Tuesday. We're all counting on New Hampshire where it starts to make sure that we take it across the finish line. We can't leave anything to chance. We can't take anything for granted. I've been through 2 very close Senate campaigns. In the first one, before, as Governor Jindal mentioned, I had the good fortune of winning a Senate election. I lost one by 524 votes. 1/2 of 1 vote per voting precinct in my state. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me after that election and said, you know what, if we'd known how close it was going to be. Yeah. Well, they actually said that, believe it or not. And they said, you know, we got my neighbor to vote, I got my uncle to vote, but we don't want to wake up on November the 7th and say that we didn't do everything we possibly could to make sure that Mitt Romney is the next president of the United States. And so I want to ask you, thank you for what you've done. I know so many of you worked so hard at making the phone calls and walking the neighborhoods, knocking on the doors, pounding in the yard signs. It's tedious and monotonous, but it is the blocking and tackling of the campaign. It's the ground game. It's what makes the difference in this stage of a campaign. It's getting people out to vote. So between now and Tuesday, do whatever you can to get Romney voters out to the polls on Election Day to make sure that we make him the next president of the United States, and that New Hampshire speaks loudly and clearly. I'm going to hand it off to Brooke and the real Granite State legend, you all know.
Especially those folks outside. We really appreciate you being here. Hard work makes a difference in politics. It does. And with those of you who have been part of this process of calling, knocking on doors, helping put signs up, bumper stickers, it makes a difference. We brought today an all-star team to fire you up a little bit more in the next 60 hours. 60 more hours. It's important. We have to do what we need to do in order to, first of all, help New Hampshire stay New Hampshire. We got to help Ovid get in there and fix that. But secondly, for the sake of these 2 little kids and all our kids and our grandkids, we've got to make sure that this administration that has no idea what America